Chapter 151, Security Guard's Arrival. What? Long Shuiyao was struck dumb. With a dull expression, she looked at Tang Xiu's calm face as shock, as though a storm, struck her heart. Never once in her dreams had she ever imagined that those 20 big men were Tang Xiu's subordinates. Who was he, really? This made Long Shuiyao's curiosity toward Tang Xiu skyrocket to the highest degree. She was somewhat curious toward him ever since Long Zhengyu gave him the grandest villa in Southgate Town. Even though she had yet to meet and get along with him much, but her curiosity growed after each time she met him. She really wanted to know the identity and everything about Tang Xiu. They are my men, so I'll take them along with me. Anyways, I need to go back to my house and change clothes, so can I bring them now? Said Tang Xiu. Oh, well, please. Long Shuiyao sobered up from her daze and quickly replied. After nodding to her, Tang Xiu walked to the front of those 20 big men and spoke seriously. The person you've been looking for is me. Follow me. He directly went into the inside area of Southgate Town after having said that. These 20 big men had already saw Tang Xiu's picture. And at the moment, they also recognized him, so no one spoke nor whispered. They only silently walked in a line and followed behind Tang Xiu as they headed toward the inside of Southgate Town. As they entered the villa, Tang Xiu looked at them and calmly said, I'm Tang Xiu. I believe you already know me since some of you perhaps have seen me when I visited the Everlasting Feast Hall those 2 times. Anyways, starting from today, I'm your boss. The only request I ask of you is, promptly obey my orders above everything else. Can you do it? Yes, understood, boss. The 20 men shouted in unison. Nodding in satisfaction, Tang Xiu continued, I'll welcome all of you with a welcoming dinner this evening. However, since you'll stay in Star City for quite a long time, and as I also don't have the time to manage all of you, you'll be transferred to and work under my general manager. She will be responsible to provide you all the basic necessities and your work arrangements, for which you will have to listen to her. The Long's dining hall. Tang Xiu made a call to book a private room, but the staffer told him there was no room left, so he had no choice but call Qin Zhizhong to help him book it. From this, it was definite that people, as had always been, were divided into a low and high social caste. But Tang Xiu didn't care too much about it. He might be a nobody now, but later, he would be someone powerful. It's said that the world sometimes behaves like a river that flows east for 30 years and then west for the next 31. The wheel of fortune rises and falls with the changes of time. Maybe in the future, they would regard and give him the privileges of a VIP when he had meals in the Long's dining hall. After Qin Zhizhong reserved the private room and told its number to him, Tang Xiu ordered those 20 big men to go there first as he wanted to have a shower and change his clothes. It was also because he needed to complete the healthcare products he had concocted yesterday, as well as take the formula. At the evening when he met Kong Xia, he would give these stuffs and the 20 big men to her. Half an hour later, when Tang Xiu left the Southgate Town's gate, he could sense that some people were keeping an eye at him. He didn't pay attention to them and directly took the taxi to head to the Long's dining hall, but after he entered the private room, Kong Xia greeted him with a strange expression. Whilst looking at the 20 men who were sitting in front of a long table in postures as though stone statues, also looking at Kong Xia's strange expression, Tang Xiu said with a light laugh, Huh? What? Those men are not to your satisfaction? With a forced smile, Kong Xia replied, It's not that I'm not content, but it's because I'm way too satisfied. Boss, I've seen the world's best security guards, and nearly all of them are retired members of special forces from all countries. Not only are they very well trained in military skills, but their individual combat capabilities are also outstanding. They will even brave the dangers to meet death with a straight back when they have to protect their clients. But, comparing them with these 20 men, those people seem to be quite subpar. Tang Xiu replied with an astonished tone, such big gap. Kang Xia said with a nod, absolutely. I've been observing them for a full 20 minutes. And they haven't moved even slightly since they sat there. Even their eyes didn't blink. If I didn't see them walking into the room before, I would have thought that they were only stuffed dummies. Tang Xiu swept over the 20 men and then lightly smiled, everyone, tonight is the welcoming dinner reception for you. You can consider it as your free and leisure time, so you don't need to be that restricted and maintain such discipline. I've seen a lot of brave and iron-willed soldiers. They brave the battlefields with a such rigid and strict discipline and courageously kill their enemies. But they always open their mouth wide to eat and drink in their leisure and resting time, as well as having fun. The 20 big men's eyes shone at the same time. They looked at each other and nodded repeatedly. After which, they got up together, faced Tang Xiu and cupped their fists over, saying, "Thanks a lot, boss." Tang Xiu said with a laugh, "Anyway, Yen is my apprentice. She really did a good job in training all of you. If in the future I see that you have unwavering loyalty and dedication to your duty, perhaps I'll let you step on another path." Another path? The 20 men's body trembled crazily with a frantic and zealous expression on their faces. Gu Yen adopted them when they were 6 or 7 years old, and she personally trained them for these 20 or 30 years. It could be said that they were Gu Yen's trusted personnel. Similarly, they were also aware about Gu Yen's identity. Immortal cultivation. This path was a slow, solemn and lonely one. They were men who had been tempered into hard iron ones. Gu Yen had trained them with extremely harsh and cold training since their childhood, as well as had spent a great price for them. She made them dive through chaotic, foreign war zones overseas, where they had to fight and survive there. Gu Yen even sent them to stay on a vast isolated island, hunting and killing fierce and powerful ferocious beasts. It could be said that they were brought up and grew with hands covered with blood, with killings and slaughters that had long been instilled and carved into their bones. They didn't fear death. Neither were they afraid of being lonely or meet tragic ends. What they needed was stimulation, passion and fervor, as they would use their blood to cast their future paths. The immortal path. Their lifespan would increase and it would open a new chapter to their life and world. They even hoped that one day, they would be able to fly just like Gu Yen. Free and unfettered. Thank you, boss. The 20 big men pushed the table and chairs as they knelt down with one knee and cupped their fists over and shouted with strong and deafening voices. Even the experienced Kang Xia was shocked and absent-minded as she saw this. These 20 men appeared not as security guards, but strong iron-blooded private soldiers that had been trained by Tang Xiu. What's the matter? Arrange the food and wine, will you? Tang Xiu looked at Kang Xia, who was dazed and lost in thought as he spoke with a smile. Kang Xia was as though being abruptly awakened from a dream and promptly replied, Well, good. It turned out peacefully. No. I've already arranged that. I've ordered the best food and wine the Long's dining hall has. It should be served soon. Tang Xiu said with a laugh, everyone, sit now. Don't restrain yourself for today and relax well. Also, have a good meal and drink, since after today, you'll have busy days ahead. After the full 2 hours, Tang Xiu and Kang Xia accompanied the 20 big men to eat and drink happily and extravagantly. He could see that the 40 bottles of spirits had been emptied, but they only had red faces and nobody was drunk. He was secretly satisfied. These men could drink and stomach it, good men indeed. However, when they were about to leave the Long's dining hall, Kang Xia came back with an unsightly expression after she paid the bill. As Tang Xiu asked her, only then was he told that the meals cost 2 million yuan. The magnificent Tang Corporation was precisely short on money at present, and even though Kang Xia had seen much more money than that, she was still pained spending it. Near the front door of the Long's dining hall, Zhu Tianqiang, with 4 of his brothers, had been quietly watching the guests who were passing in and out of the Long's dining hall. Around them were dozens of bullies and criminal thugs with weapons hidden. His fiancée and his future brother-in-law were beaten. It was an extreme slap in his face, without a doubt. He was so filled with rage that he wouldn't forgive the culprit. Senior brother, that punk has gone in for about 2 hours. Even if they only ate their meals slowly, they will finish it soon. Our brothers are all here already, so we can immediately act once he comes out. Since he dares to hit the master's future sister-in-law, he really wants to live a crooked life, it seems. A monkey-faced middle-aged man spoke while stroking his chin. Zhu Tianqiang coldly said, "We must catch him. But not in front of this Long's dining hall's front gate. There's a lot of people streaming nearby, and it will certainly cause panic once we gang up on him here. Even the cops will be on us. Follow him for now and wait until that little punk is in a place with few people. We'll fuck him up then." The monkey-like middle-aged man nodded and said, "Okay, we'll do as senior brother says. If today I don't make that punk a waste, I won't be able to sleep when I go back." At this time, Tang Xiao and Kang Xia came out of the Long's dining hall's gate side by side. "Are you not going with them?" With an astonished expression, Tang Xiao looked at Kang Xia. Those 20 big men had already gone to the basement parking lot, while Kang Xia was actually following him out. Kang Xia replied with a smile, "Since you, the boss, isn't going, how could I have the guts to leave?" Pondering for a second, Tang Xiao then lightly said, Something you want to ask me?" "Well, ask then. I'll answer." Whilst raising her thumb up, Kang Xia exclaimed in admiration and said, "You're really the boss. You can even read my mind. Anyway, I want to ask you one thing. Where did you get those 20 security guards from? They couldn't be mercenary soldiers, right? It's just that I accidentally found gunshot wounds on Zhong Tikue's arm while we had the meal. He also got stab wound marks." Zhong Tikue. He's the captain of the 20 men. The most robust and muscular, as well as being quite the drinker. Tang Xiao shook his head and said, "Their origins are not something I know about, neither do I knew them before. But my most trusted person is the one who trained them, so I can trust these men. Since they will follow you later, not only must you treat them well, but you must also regard them as your most trusted people. Trust me, they are very strong. Let alone security guards, even if you want them to be hitmen, they will be much stronger than a lot of assassins." With an astonished expression, Kang Xia said, "You mean, they have seen people's blood?" "Not only have they seen blood, but they literally have climbed out a sea of blood and a mountain of corpses. I can be sure that they at least have killed more than a dozen of people." "Well, do remember to put everything I've told you inside your heart and don't speak about it with anyone," said Tang Xiao. Kang Xia was, after all, a fully serious and upright businesswoman. She suddenly grew frightened by Tang Xiao's words. Tang Xiao said, "Kang Xia, care not for their past. Just remember, they are security guards now, you can even regard them as your trusted personnel." Chapter 152, A Good Play. Whilst they were talking, Tang Xiao's expression suddenly changed. He was acutely aware that a lot of eyes with ill intentions constantly swept over him from the surroundings. What's happening here? He instantly released his spiritual sense and completely enveloped the scope of 200 meters in the surroundings. His brows knitted as he could sense that a lot of people were indeed keeping eyes on him. There were even nearly 30 young thugs with knives and sticks hidden in their bodies. For a moment, Tang Xiao was silent. Then, he suddenly said, "Kang Xia, you got other plans for this evening?" Kang Xia shook her head and said, "Been busy all day long today. I'm not an iron woman, so I'll head home to have some sleep, naturally. Anyway, what's up? Got something in mind? Interested to follow me and see a good play? Asked Tang Xiu. A good play? With raised brows, Kang Xia asked, what sort of good play? With a calm tone, Tang Xiu replied, well, you can see it for yourself. If you don't want to, you can go back now. If you do, then just follow me. Fine with me. Kang Xia nodded. Around 10 minutes later, Tang Xiu and Kang Xia arrived at a park side which was rarely visited by people. The shade of the moonlight was whirling and dancing along with the scorching heat brought by summer. Then, Tang Xiu stopped under a towering big tree. With a confused expression, Kang Xia said, Boss, what did you bring me here for? A faint smile surfaced on Tang Xiu's face. With his spiritual sense, he could see that those people quickly gathered and were headed for his position. Then, he loudly spoke, Yo people. It's really laborious of you to come all the way to this place. Since there are only 2 of us here, do you think you still need to hide? Crazy punk. Leading 4 of his fellow apprentices, Zhu Tianxiang quickly appeared along in front of Tang Xiu and Kang Xia. And those nearly 30 young thugs pulled out sticks and knives as they surrounded the 2. With a cold and detached expression, Tang Xiu looked at him. He took out his mobile, dialing a number and spoke, Where are you? Nearby. Zhong Tiekui's cold voice came out from the mobile. Then, Tang Xiu issued the order, immediately come here and surround all of them. No one amongst these people who have come tonight can leave without bleeding. Understood. Following the end of the call, 20 big guys quietly appeared behind the young thugs. Their expressions were cold and grim. But since Tang Xiu had yet to give his order, they didn't act. Yet. Huh? Zhu Tianxiang's expression changed. The 4 fellow apprentices at his side also showed a surprised expression. They had never thought that their plan to intercept Tang Xiu would turn out in them being the ones surrounded instead. Those 30 youth thugs' complexions also greatly changed. They had always liked to bullying weaker people. But now, 20 big guys suddenly appeared. And it was obvious that those guys were not one of them. Upon seeing Zhu Tianxiang and his group, Tang Xiu spoke with a smile, I don't know who or what you are. But even so, I don't care what kind of background you have. I just want to ask a question. I guarantee that your fate will be 10 times much better than everyone else if you answer me. A ridiculing expression was revealed in Zhu Tianxiang's eyes as he said, You're Tang Xiu, right? Just like from the investigation I got, you're really extremely unbridled and arrogant. You think that by relying upon your trivial kung fu you are much higher than others, eh? You think you can be arrogant in front of us? What a blockhead. We, from the Rising Dragon Martial School, have always been the ones to bully others, and not otherwise. Rising Dragon Martial School? Tang Xiu frowned. He just found himself disliking the people from this martial school. The last time was Fei Chang and his 3 fellow apprentices. And this time, some other bunch from this school appeared again. Tell me the reason as to why you sought me out. Tang Xiu spoke with a tranquil tone. With a burst of laughter, Zhu Tianxiang then spoke, What? Feeling anxious after you heard that we are from the Rising Dragon Martial School? I, your father, will tell you. You dare to hit my woman. This alone condemned your fate to be extremely miserable. I care not how many people you have brought along. In my eyes, they are only just garbage. And your woman is? Asked Tang Xiu. Coldly snorting, Zhu Tianxiang replied, Zhang Deqin. Don't tell me you know nothing about her. Tang Xiu suddenly smiled and said, Well, looks like that she looked for you and asked you to avenge her. The sibling is no good, and I can tell that you are just as the same. Since you're also a garbage, then I'll clean you up, and then pack them up again as well. After having said that, he turned toward Kong Xia, who neither had the slightest fear or anxiousness as he asked with a smile, "Well, tell me. You want me to let them play? Or should I personally act? You can win against so many?" asked Kong Xia. Tang Xiu smiled as he replied with a nod, "I got you. Stand here and don't move. See how this drama will be played today." As his voice ended, Tang Xiu instantly sprinted forward. And within a blink of an eye, he appeared 7 or 8 meter distance near Zhu Tianxiang and his 4 brothers. The trajectory of his fist strikes was very strange as the instant movements hit Zhu Tianxiang's left lower ribs. But even so, his fist didn't pause even for a bit, as his fist also hit the next person on the man's right lower ribs. "Ah!" Piercing and miserable screams came out from Zhu Tianxiang and the other man. "Get lost." A middle-aged man could feel that Tang Xiu's leg was about to hit him as he instantly raised his arms, trying to push Tang Xiu's leg out. However, the clear sounds of bones breaking were heard as his shoulder was severely split, followed by his body that fell on the ground in that instant. Bang, bang. A cold and grim smile could be seen on Tang Xiu's face. His moves were particularly ruthless and vicious. These 5 men were the instructors from the Rising Dragon Martial School. But within 4 or 5 breaths, he already knocked them down to the ground. His movements were as smooth as the passing clouds and flowing water, free and unhindered, along with the terrifying lethality it brought. Even those 20 big guys' complexions slightly changed upon seeing how Tang Xiu moved. "Let's call it a day." Tang Xiu patted his hands as he looked at Kong Xia and asked, "How about it? Was my performance good enough?" A brilliant glint flashed in Kong Xia's eyes. She raised her thumb up and exclaimed in admiration, "Beautiful. Never have I ever seen anyone as powerful as you, even those foreign boxers and the fighters in movies. I can say that in no way can they be compared with you. Even I got some kind of illusion that you were showing some kind of art when you hit them." With an involuntary laugh, Tang Xiu replied, "What eloquence. No wonder that you can be such outstanding person in the business world." Kong Xia showed a faint smile and said, "You're overpraising, boss. Anyway, what's all this about? These people said that you hit his woman, and this was to seek revenge on you." Tang Xiu lightly said, "I got no problems with them whatsoever before. But this woman's younger brother is very arrogant, so I taught him a lesson a few times, for which he resents me afterwards. But that woman once had a gambling house with Long Zhengyu, while I was the one who helped him win the game. Therefore, when we met by chance a couple days ago, some cheap words bursted out from their mouth, so I slapped her. But I didn't expect that she would ask someone to retaliate though." Kong Xia suddenly said, "Boss, more or less, I know your character. You are not the like to take the initiative to provoke others. So I can tell that the words from that woman's mouth were not the usual cheap ones." Tang Xiu smiled as he looked at the 20 to 30 young thugs whose complexions had greatly changed. Then, he shouted with a solemn tone, "Hit them up and knock them down. Don't forget to break their legs. Young but don't learn from good role models, then we might as well prevent them from acting against ordinary people." "Yes." The 20 robust men replied in unison as they stormed over toward the 30 youth thugs like tigers and wolves. These men's attacks were very fast, ruthless, accurate and lethal at the same time. Within just half a minute, all of those bullies were knocked down with one of their legs wasted. Tang Xiu looked at those youth thugs who let out howling and painful screams everywhere as he also looked at Zhu Tianxiang, who was just like a dead dog after he hit him. Then, he shouted in a deep tone, "Bring those 5 and follow me." Immediately, 5 men picked up Zhu Tianxiang's group as they walked behind Tang Xiu toward the parked bus. The bus driver was a fat middle-aged man and was quite behaved. He also saw the fighting scene clearly from the distance a moment ago. And after Tang Xiu and the others walked toward his bus, he immediately stammered and spoke stutteringly, I, I'm only a driver for the company, your problems have nothing to do with me. You won't be related with this problem whatsoever. The only thing you need to do is drive the bus. If you think that our behavior is way too violent, you might as well resign this job tomorrow, said Tang Xiu faintly. The fat driver promptly said, no. I'm very satisfied with the job, but I'm afraid. Tang Xiu interrupted his words, saying, then join the magnificent Tang Corporation. You don't need to be afraid of anything if you're part of the magnificent Tang Corporation. We never take the initiative to bully others, but when others dare to bully us, we take the humiliation and stay in silence. Anyway, do you know where Rising Dragon Martial School is? The fat driver asked in further doubt, you want to go to the Rising Dragon Martial School? I know the place, but there are 2 sub-schools for this Rising Dragon Martial School. One is the main head school, and the other one is the branch. Which one are you going to visit? The main one. Tang Xiu answered without hesitation. Kong Xia, who was at his side, was puzzled as she heard the answer. Boss, you're going to the Rising Dragon Martial School? What do you want to do there? Settling the account with their martial school. Twice people from this school sought and created troubles for me, so I'm quite pissed off. I must take advantage of today's opportunity and solve this, said Tang Xiu lightly. This is also part of the major drama tonight? Kong Xia probed further. Correct. Tang Xiu calmly replied. The main branch of the Rising Dragon Martial School was located in the west end of Star City, in the bustling area with a lot of high-rise buildings. The streets were pretty much heavy with traffic, and the continuous streams of lights in the streets at night were as though a glistening huge dragon. And now, Jiang Feng was very happy, since an old friend who had long been out of touch for so many years was visiting him. After serving his friend a satiating dinner, he also began to compare notes as he found that not only was his old friend's kung fu outstanding, but he particularly also had honed his legs techniques to the point of perfection, even though the fight was just like before, he coming out as the winner. Old Yang, this younger brother's kung fu hasn't decayed, right? Previously, I closed up and created this kung fu style in the Great Northwest region, and have defeated quite the number of people there. But even though you actually made great progress, but you still have no means to surpass me, said Jiang Feng with a smiling face while stroking the gray beard on his chin. Chapter 153, Knocking the School's Door and Fight. Sitting at the opposite of Jiang Feng was Yang Xianyu. Just like him, he was also over his 70s, looking vigorous, buoyant and beaming with spirits. He didn't care even though he lost to Jiang Feng after comparing their kung fu. An old gramps like you unexpectedly still have such a soaring fighting spirit. Losing to you is kinda normal, you know. You've always been well known as a talented martial art genius since your childhood. So it's no shameful thing for me in losing to you. Jiang Feng said with a laugh, this is what people say, that the body may be old but not the heart. Anyway, for years I have not seen you, and I got no time to ask you something before we went to drink. So, why did you come to Star City this time? Yang Xianyu's face instantly turned serious upon hearing Jiang Feng's inquiry as he replied with a deep tone. I heard that a few days ago a young divine doctor has cured a girl who was contracted with a strange illness in Jingmen Island. An illness for which quite a lot of well-known domestic doctors were unable to cure. So I rushed to Jingmen Island but came out empty-handed. After asking around, I heard that this young divine doctor comes from Star City. With some doubt, Jiang Feng asked, what do you need that young divine doctor for? Who has contracted a serious illness? Yang Xianyu replied with a wry, forced smile, it's the old lady of mine. She has been a vegetarian and a Buddhist follower the entirety of her life. She thought that doing that would garner her the blessing and protection from the gods and Buddhas. Previously, she also doesn't close the door when she is going to sleep, so now she got some paralyzing stroke. The most nefarious thing is, not only is she got the stroke, But she also contracted a strange symptom, for she's always shouting in her stupor, calling out that she's seeing some deities or something. So, I rushed to Star City personally to find that young divine doctor, wanting to ask him to treat my old woman. Jiang Feng suddenly said, "How much information have you got about that young divine doctor?" "I've been in Star City for decades. I have quite a lot of personal contacts and network here. Perhaps, I can help you finding him." Yang Xinyu said with a wry smile, "I only know that he's called Tang Xiu, a 20-years-old young man. But I'm totally clueless about other things. Look, the reason why I'm visiting you today was because I need you to accompany me to the Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, to ask for his whereabouts from the people there." Jiang Feng said, "I do have an old friend, and he's exactly the president of the said hospital, so I'll call him and ask about it. Maybe he knows about the person you're looking for." Yang Xinyu stared blankly for a moment, before immediately replying with a surprised expression afterward, then, "Thanks a lot, Brother Jiang." "No problem." A faint smile appeared on Jiang Feng's face as he then prepared to dial Li Hongji's cell number. However, sounds of a ruckus bursted from the outside, followed by miserable, shrilling screams. What happened? Jiang Feng put his mobile down as he looked and asked his youngest son, who was rushing inside. Jiang Xiang was a 30-years-old man with a tall stature. He was wearing a black-colored training outfit as a slight alarmed and afraid expression was cast on his face as he replied, "Dad, some people stormed over our hall." "What?" Jiang Feng was struck with surprise for a moment before his expression changed greatly. He clearly could remember that it was a decade ago the last time when someone stormed over and caused a ruckus at his school. Since he had great fame and reputation, besides also having taught a lot of disciples, nobody in the entire of Star City would have the guts to give him no face in the recent 10 years. But now, some people unexpectedly came to storm and challenge his school when his old friend was visiting. Wasn't this playing with his old face? "You go. I'll take a look as to who dares to come storming and challenge the Rising Dragon Martial School." Jiang Feng took the lead with an angry face as he walked in big strides toward the front yard. The Rising Dragon Martial School covered quite a wide area, comparable with a public school. The front courtyard was the place where disciples practiced their kung fu, while the backyard was the living place for the school's instructors. At the kung fu training field in the front courtyard, Tang Xiu and Kong Xia were sitting since Zhong Tiekue had gotten them chairs, while the 20 men along with him were standing in 2 rows at both sides of Tang Xiu and Kong Xia, respectively. In front of Tang Xiu, Zhu Tianxiang along with the other 4 were lying on the ground, unconscious. When Jiang Feng arrived at the kung fu training field in the front courtyard, his face suddenly changed upon seeing such a scene, as suddenly a cold glint came out of his eyes. Along with the dozens of kung fu instructors around him, he came before Tang Xiu and he shouted with a deep tone, "Who are you?" Tang Xiu replied lightly, "I heard that the Martial Arts Society has the custom for accepting a challenge for hitting the school. But it seems that you regard me as a stranger, a passerby only. Then, I might as well challenge your hall. I don't like your Rising Dragon Martial School, so if possible I hope you can disband your school as to avoid your people bullying and hurting others in the future." Whilst looking at Zhu Tianxiang and the other 4 deeply, Jiang Feng asked with a sinking tone, "Your Excellency, hitting the martial school also has another custom, that you must leave your name. And listening to your tone, it seems like the people from my Rising Dragon Martial School have offended you. Care to tell for what reason they did that?" Tang Xiu turned to Zhong Tiekue and spoke with an indifferent expression, "Wake that guy up." "Yes." Zhong Tiekue went to Zhu Tianxiang's side as he picked him up, severely punching his face and knocking him down to the ground again. The acute pain woke Zhu Tianxiang up from his unconscious state, but he quickly held a miserable scream due to the piercing pain he felt. About 10 seconds later, after Zhu Tianxiang endured the pain, he looked up and around. His face suddenly changed greatly as he found himself back at the Rising Dragon Martial School, as well as clearly aware what kind of situation he was in. MMA master. Fear struck Xu Tianxiang's heart, but he braced himself and called out. With a sinking tone, Jiang Feng shouted at him, "Tell me, what's all this about?" Xu Tianxiang hesitated as he turned his head and looked at Tang Xiu with a frightened expression. Then, he replied with a bitter and astringent tone, "Master, your disciple is no good. I have shamed you." Straight to the point. Jiang Feng scolded him and snapped. Xu Tianxiang told the whole story again and finally said, "Master, he hit my fiancée, I can't swallow this. So I only took the other 4 fellow disciples to seek him and avenge her. The whole problem is my mistake, but please don't blame the other 4 brothers. I admit my mistakes and am willing to receive any disciplinary punishments." Jiang Feng looked at Tang Xiu as he said with a cold snort, "Your Excellency, you're rather too rampant, aren't you? It was you who hit someone first, and now you even dare to come to our martial school. Do you really think that we're that easy to bully?" Tang Xiu waved his hand as he said with a dull and indifferent tone, "I have no good impression toward your martial school, even a bit. This is already the 2nd time. Last time some of your people accepted dirty money to waste me. But the outcome was me severely injuring them. But I think those 4 fellows are not in your school anymore, are they?" "4? Who were severely injured?" Jiang Feng's mind quickly went back to the previous days, when Fei Chang and the other 3 came back injured. Suddenly, he understood. When Fei Chang came back, he said that he was provoked, challenged and tried to suppress it. And then, they got beaten and seriously injured. It turned out that the 4 of them received some dirty money from others against the moral and judicial code. However, since others were bullying them at their own turf, Jiang Feng also couldn't bear this tone. Whilst looking at Tang Xiu with a cold and detached expression, he spoke with a sinking tone, "Since your Excellency have come to challenge our hall, then let's cut the crap and begin. Since you can defeat my good-for-nothing apprentices, surely you have good kung fu." Tang Xiu replied with a sneer, "Humph, your 3 feet cat's kung fu isn't good enough for me to take notice. But this time I brought some of my company's security personnel, I'll let them play with you." Jiang Feng was angry, "You're extremely arrogant. Arrogant or not, you'll know after we play. Hey, amongst the 20 of you, who's willing to come out and accompany them to play?" "I'll do it." One big man stood as he replied with a deep tone. Tang Xiu said with a nod, "Remember, we're at home. Stick by the laws of the country and don't kill them." "Yes." The strong robust man nodded heavily. Jiang Feng looked at Tang Xiu's eyes deeply. Then, he looked and sized up the strong man before he turned to his son, Jiang Xiang, and coldly said, "Xiao Xiang, you go." "Understood." Jiang Xiang stepped forward in large strides. Tang Xiu looked at his watch and said, "Finish this quickly, I still have things to do this evening. I don't have much time to waste here." "Yes." The strong man replied as he threw himself toward Jiang Xiang in large strides. His footsteps were steady and very fast. Even as he had yet to strike, his moves already emitted a fierce and ruthless flavor within it. He was once trained at some special forces training camp. What he had learned was the killing style. And he was also a seasoned veteran soldier and had experienced hundreds of battlefields. The eagle spreads the wings. Jiang Xiang shouted loudly as both of his arms opened wide as though eagle claws, constantly attacking the strong man fiercely. "Humph." The strong man coldly snorted. His fist aimed to hit Jiang Xiang's neck in an instant as his left leg also sent out a lightning kick to Jiang Xiang's shoulder. The moment his fist was blocked by Jiang Xiang, his left leg quickly hit Jiang Xiang's shoulder heavily. Bang! Jiang Xiang's body was kicked and instantly sent him flying before he hit the ground heavily. Everyone present were all martial artists. They could see clearly that Jiang Xiang's shoulder which had been hit was different from before. Apparently, it was twisted to the rear by the kick. A middle-aged man around 40 years old then stood up amongst the people from the Rising Dragon Martial School. His stature was thin, with an upward-shaped bridge nose and a frosty expression on his face. What a good, ruthless method, and a powerful force as well. I'm Situ Lu, disciple of Master. Please give me some guidance. The strong man was losing his interest. He previously thought that his opponent was powerful, but it turned out that the opponent was knocked down and got wasted the moment he hit him. Moreover, since the boss had ordered to not kill the opponent as to avoid more troubles, he found it troublesome. If he was allowed to, he could have killed Jiang Xiang with a strike within half a second. Then, Tang Shou spoke with an indifferent tone, since the other side wants to play more, you accompany them to play. Let 10 of them to stand to fight you. If those 10 from this Rising Dragon Martial School are able to beat you, then I'll give them some countenance for their face. What arrogance! Jiang Feng shouted angrily upon hearing this. He then spoke with a sinking tone, Kid, you have yet to say your name. While pointing at the strong man, Tang Shou replied at him with a laugh, send out 10 more of your people. If all of them can beat him, I'll satisfy your curiosity. Else, your Rising Dragon School is much too disappointing for my taste. It will be equal to humiliate yourselves if you want to know my name. With a smile filled with extreme anger, Jiang Feng said, fine. Such a big tone. But if that's the case, then, the request of your excellency will be satisfied. 10 of you, come forward and beat him down. Instantly, 10 Rising Dragon School's instructors rushed forward toward the strong man and surrounded him. An excited expression could be seen flashing from their eyes. It was as though this strong man was just like a lamb waiting to be butchered in their eyes. The strong man's spirit was also sparked. The look of being addicted to fight was seen flashing in his eyes. He knew that Tang Shou still had some matters to be taken care of, so he didn't say more words and took the first initiative to attack. Chapter 154, Outcome. The 10 instructors from the Rising Dragon School were all fierce and powerful fighters. Either it was combat skills, actual combats, or experience to fight in teamwork, they all had them. With 3 people filling the upper and lower parts, their fists and kicks were crisscrossing, meeting the strongman head-on. Suicidal clowns. The strongman knew no fear. He didn't even have the intention to avoid the clash and fiercely met the person in front with his fist head-on and sent him flying. After which, his body instantly dashed to the right and punched out as his fist and elbows struck at another man and sent him flying as well. While sitting on the chair, Tang Shou turned and looked at Kong Xia as he asked with a smile, what do you think? Is their strength good enough? Kong Xia raised 4 fingers next to her face and said, he has the chance to kill them 4 times. I can see clearly that there's a sharp tool peeking out a bit between his fingers. But the instant it was about to hit his opponent, he changed the trajectory of his attack. With an astonished expression, Tang Shou asked, you can see it so clearly? Kong Xia replied with a proud smile, my eyesight is 2.5 times sharper than an ordinary person's. But his speed is very fast and he has already surpassed the limit of an average person. If it were not because of the moonlight reflection, I wouldn't have been able to see it. Puzzled, Tang Shou continued, is your eye's ability inborn, or did you develop it later on? It's innate, said Kong Xia. Tang Shou nodded even though he was thinking about another similar thing in his mind. When he was in the immortal world, he had met a genius in eye cultivation techniques. His eyesight was 10 times stronger than ordinary people's, and he turned into an outstanding and famous Heavenly Eye's great emperor within a short 1800 years. In that case, Kong Xia's eyes were highly likely to be similar with the Heavenly Eye's great emperor's. That meant she was actually able to cultivate a special eyes cultivation technique and fostered her ability. As the 2 of them were chatting, the strong man had knocked all of the Rising Dragon's instructors down. Even though he didn't want to kill these people, his moves and strikes were extremely ruthless. Those 10 instructors had either their legs or arms broken as screams molded into one in this kung fu training field. Tang Xiu looked at Jiang Feng, whose complexion flushed red, and lightly said, "Well, the young ones have played their parts. Old man, shouldn't you act now? I heard that you're very strong. Wanna play with one of my people?" Jiang Feng took a step forward and said with a sneer, "I have entered the Grandmaster realm of martial arts for 10 years. If you think your men can beat me, then bring it on." Tang Xiu looked at Zhong Tiekue and said indifferently, "Accompany him to practice. This old chap might have yet to teach his disciples much, but I heard that he's just and moral. Give him some mercy." "Yes," Zhong Tiekue replied as he walked to the open space in front. Jiang Feng narrowed his eyes. He might be old, but not only had his strength not regressed, but instead, his kung fu had reached the pinnacle after decades of hard training. Yang Xinyu, who was standing nearby, had already seen that Tang Xiu's men were powerful, so he was well aware that his old friend could be losing today. In his hesitation, he spoke to remind him, "Be careful, even I cannot see the depth of your opponent." Jiang Feng sneered, "Bah, just look at his age. He's mostly only 40 years old or so. Even if he began practicing kung fu inside his mother's womb, I don't believe that he already reached the Grandmaster realm. It will be easy to pack him up." A forced smile was revealed on Yang Xinyu's face as he replied, "Even so, you better not to fall and capsized, otherwise, your name and reputation will be destroyed in a flash." Jiang Feng suddenly turned cautious and discreet upon hearing this. Tang Xiu looked at Yang Xinyu and asked with an insipid expression, "Are you from this Rising Dragon School? If not, you'd better keep your mouth shut." Yang Xinyu turned to see Tang Xiu as he shook his head and said with a sigh, "AI, young ones nowadays really don't know how to respect the elderly and care for the young. That aside, I hope your man does have some ability, else you'll lose today." At the side, Zhu Tianxiang, who was being propped up by some people, suddenly shouted, "Master, the most powerful person is not the one in front of you. It's him. The one who's sitting there. We have 5 brothers, weren't able to hold out by even 10 seconds and got knocked out by him completely." "What?" A disbelieving expression appeared on Jiang Feng and Yang Xinyu's faces as shocked looks could be seen in their eyes. In this moment, they knew it was definitely impossible for Zhu Tianxiang to lie to them. But, achieving the feat of knocking down Zhu Tianxiang along with his 4 fellow disciples within 10 seconds was not something they could do. To what kind of terrifying degree could his strength be? Tang Xiu said with some ridicule, "AI, please, don't be afraid. I'm very weak. Just look at my age. Even if I began training since I was still my mother's womb, there's no way I can have such an illustrious achievement." Jiang Feng's expression instantly turned into a red pig liver color. He knew perfectly well that the other slapped his face with his own words. Tang Xiu looked at Jiang Feng and said, "The two of you need not dilly-dally, please hurry to have your fight. I still have to go back home and help tutoring my classmates for extra lessons and school stuff. So I got no time to delay further." Helping and tutoring his classmates for schoolwork? For a moment, Jiang Feng stared blankly. Everyone in the Rising Dragon School were all dumbfounded. They looked at Tang Xiu with a hard-to-believe expression. It was simply unimaginable for such a young man to have a powerful group of men, much less be a student. However, Jiang Feng was, after all, someone who had braved the stormy sea of life for years. He looked toward Zhong Tiekue, cupping his fist over at him and spoke, "I'm much older than you, and I also have reached the Grandmaster realm. So I'll give you 3 chances to strike first. If you cannot beat me within these 3 strikes, you'll never have the chance to win me." Zhong Tiekue replied with a sneer, "No need. The boss wants to see a good play, so you better give your best shot. Otherwise, even though the boss told me to start off leniently, I will make you a eunuch and unable to get laid." "You?" Jiang Feng flew into a rage. His thought to give 3 strikes start to Zhong Tiekue instantly evaporated. With extremely calm footsteps, he stood still as though a pine and bent his body just like a bow, showcasing a posture of a lion that was about to prey on a rabbit, and went all out. Along with the tread of the tip of his toe on the ground, his body dashed toward Zhong Tiekue. His palms turned into fists and bombarded Zhong Tiekue for dozens of times in an instant. Bang, bang. Fighting for Zhong Tiekue was as though eating a plain meal. Meeting head-on with Jiang Feng's fists, both of his arms waved constantly from time to time, even his speed was faster than Jiang Feng's. With strange footwork, he moved and dodged Jiang Feng's fists' bombardment. His body was as though it had no bones as it twisted and swayed from side to side. In an instant, Jiang Feng's head suddenly appeared under the lower right side of Zhong Tiekue, while the latter's fist hit him with a punch to his armpit. Pa! Jiang Feng's right arm got dislocated in an instant as his body also staggered back for 4 or 5 steps. Zhong Tiekue didn't chase him and instead swayed to his side toward his neck. Along with the force of this body, a loud sound sounded as he sent a hook toward Jiang Feng. What strength! He's much stronger and faster than me. His fighting experience is also very deep. This man is definitely a ruthless one and has killed people before. What's the background of these people? From where they came from and what identity does that young man have? Jiang Feng couldn't help but think about it whilst enduring and suppressing the pain in his right arm. Then, he quickly swapped the position of his right arm with the left one. After that, he gently moved and spoke with a sinking tone, "You're very strong indeed. A kind of expert I have yet to see in all my years. Then, I'll go all out. I hope you can keep up with me. You talk too much." Zhong Tiekue sneered as he dashed toward Jiang Feng. His speed and strength suddenly surged in an instant, as in a blink of an eye, his foot kicked Jiang Feng's arms that were in a defensive posture. Following that, his lightning kick flipped up and kicked Jiang Feng's cheek. Bang. The kick didn't break Jiang Feng's cheekbone, but his eyes turned black and almost lost consciousness for 2 seconds in an instant. However, in a fight between experts, let alone 2 seconds, even half a second was enough to decide the outcome of the battle. A seasoned fighter as he was, Zhong Tiekue naturally knew to seize such an opportunity and quickly sent out dozens of bombardments within a breath. There were no useless and fancy movements as each and every hit solidly smashed Jiang Feng's chest. Again, and again. Dozens of hits repeatedly hit Jiang Feng's body as his body was pushed forcefully for about 10 meters backwards, along with a mouthful of blood that bursted out from his mouth. Jiang Feng struggled a few times to no avail as he then crawled on the ground. As for Zhong Tiekue, he didn't even glance at Jiang Feng as he came before Tang Xiu, cupping his fists over and said, "Boss, the task has been accomplished." Tang Xiu nodded with a smile whilst motioning him to head to the side. Then, his sight turned to Jiang Feng as he spoke with an indifferent expression, "You lost. So, I won in kicking your martial school, didn't I? According to the custom of martial arts society, what should you do now?" Propped up by several instructors, Jiang Feng looked like he aged 10 years in an instant. With an expression as though dying embers, he said, "I'll take down my Rising Dragon Martial School's plaque and give it to you, Your Excellency. I indeed am admitted that my kung fu and techniques are much inferior to him, so it's my loss. Much less that I'm also aware that if it weren't for him giving me mercy, I'm afraid that I would have already been killed." Tang Xiu waved and said, "I'm not interested in your school's plaque. The only real purpose I have is to let my enemies pay the price." Not only Zhu Tianxiang and his other 4 fellow disciples sought revenge on me, but he also brought along dozens of thugs. So I think he's a rotten apple. I want you to order him to call his woman, and we'll call an end to this issue. Jiang Feng turned toward Zhu Tianxiang. The latter quickly said, "No, today is no good. Deqin is leaving for the capital today since she has to secure some important business deals there. Wait for her to come back from the capital, and then I'll personally take her to apologize. For a moment, Tang Xiu was silent. But when he was about to respond, Kong Xia suddenly spoke, "Since your woman can't come, let's change the method. A lot of our time has been wasted because of you. Our time is just like gold, very precious. So, you can compensate for the loss of our spirit with some liquid." Jiang Feng and Yang Xinyu were stunned for a moment. The two men looked at each other with a clear expression on their faces. At this moment, they thought that the reason as to why Tang Xiu challenged them was not to take the school's plaque, but to make money. How much? With a helpless expression, Zhu Tianxiang asked. Without even batting an eye, Kong Xia replied, 100 million. You what? It's daylight robbery. Zhu Tianxiang was suddenly shocked as he immediately bursted out of anger upon hearing it. Although 100 million yuan wasn't that much for him and he also was barely able to provide such an amount, but still, he would have to tighten his belt and live quite meagerly later. A charming smile was revealed on Kong Xia's face as she looked at Zhu Tianxiang and said, "Haven't you heard the saying that a woman's heart is even more poisonous than a hornet's tail needles? You know what? My boss is way too kind-hearted, so he didn't want anyone's death. But as for me, my boss has told me that he won't interfere with my matter once I solve it. So what now? You think that your life and the other 4 of your brothers are not even worth 100 million? Chapter 155, Price. Coldness struck Zhu Tianxiang's heart. He could see that each and every one of those 20 strong men Tang Xiu brought along were ruthless and powerful. Just like the martial arts contest a moment ago, although they didn't kill anyone, but the pain and injuries they inflicted to his fellow apprentices were all quite severe. In this case, if they didn't give them the money, would their master be able to preserve their lives? When he thought up to there, Zhu Tianxiang couldn't help but shake his head in secret. As the saying goes, humans had no choice but to bow their heads under the eaves. In such a situation, he had no alternatives left, and could only spend money to avoid a disaster. Fine, I'll pay you. Kong Xiu applauded as she said with a smile, "Wise men always know how to submit to circumstances. Money is a dead thing, and a gifted one won't be subjected to it. Besides, you can always earn more as long as you're alive." With an ashen complexion, Zhu Tianxiang endured it and reluctantly replied, 100 million is quite an amount for me. You need to give me some time to collect it. After which, I'll send it to you immediately. Kong Xia's face changed, and then said with a cold and detached voice, "Do you think we're only 3-year-old children? Are we easily swayed by you? I give you half an hour. If you haven't sent the 100 million to our boss within this time limit, there's no need for you to collect the money." Zhu Tianxiang opened his mouth as he looked to Jiang Feng, seeking his help. Jiang Feng sighed inside. He knew that if he wasn't able to make Tang Xiu satisfied today, the matter wouldn't end peacefully. He immediately said slowly, "I'll provide the money, and all the issues will have to end today." Tang Xiu looked at Kong Xia with a strange look. He secretly admired the smartness of this woman. Although she did extort these people relying upon others' strength, but it was really effective. A stream of words came out of her mouth, and 100 million was obtained. The magnificent Tang Corporation was in development and in dire need of liquid, but with this 100 million, he believed that it would be sufficient to cover some of the more urgent needs. Kong Xia, give them our account number. I believe that they won't dare lie to me. Let's go. I've wasted too much time today, and I don't know those friends of mine to still wait for me. Tang Xiu got up and walked out in large strides without even glancing to Jiang Feng again. Jiang Feng's expression changed as he asked loudly, "Your Excellency, you haven't told me your name." "It's Tang Xiu. Do remember to tell your people, no one should dare to provoke me again, else I wouldn't mind killing all of you," replied Tang Xiu whilst walking. Tang Xiu. The name was deeply etched into Jiang Feng's mind. At the side, Yang Xinyu looked at Tang Xiu's back with a complex expression. He simply didn't recall and think about the name. Curiosity filled his heart as to what kind of background this youngster had. Not only did he have 20 martial arts experts as bodyguards, but even his own strength should be very terrifying. A few minutes later, only a few handful of people were left at the kung fu training field of the Rising Dragon School. Jiang Feng then walked toward the place where Tang Xiu was sitting, as he looked down at Zhu Tianxiang and spoke with a sinking tone. If it was only an ordinary issue of comparing martial arts and you lost because you were not as good as your opponent, I wouldn't blame you. But you unexpectedly formed a gang to have your revenge on others. This won't do. I'll give that 100 million of yuan to the 5 of you, but you all are no longer the disciples of my Rising Dragon School anymore. If later you dare to use the school's name to break the law and commit crimes, there will be none but me who will get rid of you and even kill you personally. Wake those 4 up and get the hell out now. Master. Zhu Tianxiang's complexion was as though he suffered a disastrous incident, as he involuntarily exclaimed out in a sob. Jiang Feng shouted again with anger, "Shut up. I'm no longer your master. Were my words not clear enough? Get lost now." Zhu Tianxiang's lips wiggled a few times. He finally kowtowed and knocked his head 3 times in front of Jiang Feng. Then, he stood up with his lame legs and walked toward his other 4 brothers, woke them up, and then left with their heads down. Jiang Feng looked at another disciple at his side and spoke with a solemn tone. "Send some people to find Fei Qing and the other 3 to see me. Tell them that even if they are in the ends of earth, they must see me now." "Yes." That disciple complied as he greeted his other fellow apprentices and quickly left. Yang Xinyu looked at the angered Jiang Feng. After sighing secretly, he patted his shoulder gently and said with a forced smile, "There's always a sky above the sky and a better man than us. We all understand these words. Although you don't know that young man and have yet to practice with him, but they are powerful indeed. So, it's kinda good since the other is willing to end this issue at this point." Jiang Feng nodded as he said with a helpless expression, "I admit that today I indeed have met with some powerful people, so it's no wonder that I lost. But why do I feel that his name sounded familiar?" Yang Xinyu was confused. "What name?" "Didn't you also hear that young man spell his name when he left?" said Jiang Feng. "What was he called?" Yang Xinyu slowly recalled the moment as his eyes suddenly turned round and wide. With a disbelieving expression, he exclaimed out loud, "Tang Xiu? He said his name is Tang Xiu, didn't he?" "Yes, that's the name," Jiang Feng said. Yang Xianyus blinked and spoke no longer as he rushed toward the outside extremely fast. But when he arrived at the gate, Tang Xiu and his people were no longer there. "What happened with you?" "You?" Jiang Feng asked in confusion. A wry and forced smile was revealed as Yang Xinyu replied to him, "Do you remember what I told you before? The purpose of my visit to Star City is to look for a young divine doctor called Tang Xiu. That young man called himself Tang Xiu, and his age is also about 20 years old. If my guess isn't wrong, perhaps the person I've been looking for is him." "It's him?" Jiang Feng looked at him with eyes turned and tongue-tied, as a hard-to-believe expression was drawn on his face. Yang Xinyu said, "It should be right." "Ah. Right, you are friends with the president of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, right? Try calling him. See if he knows about this Tang Xiu. If he does, ask him who and what kind of person this Tang Xiu is." "All right." Jiang Feng dialed Li Hongji's cell number. After exchanging greetings, he asked, "Old friend, the reason why I'm calling you is because I got something I want to ask." "All right, and that is?" Li Hongji's voice came out of his cell phone. Jiang Feng said, "I just heard that a young divine doctor appeared in Jingmen Island a while ago. And he's called Tang Xiu. But I also heard that he's also from Star City. Since you're the president of the Chinese medical hospital, you should know about the news within the traditional medicine society. So, you must know him if that young man really comes from our star city, right? Li Hongji let out a crisp and clear laugh as he replied, "You're really well informed, eh?" The number of people who know Tang Xiu as a young divine doctor apart from our hospital's people is absolutely very few in the entire star city. Anyway, why are you looking for him? Jiang Feng was quite happy and quickly asked, which hospital he's working with. He's with you, I suppose? Li Hongji laughed, "You're fast. But anyway, you still have to wait for half a month since he needs to attend a college entrance test first. Only then will you be able to come to our hospital and be examined by him. Old Jiang, you have no idea of how much effort I've gone through to invite him to my hospital. That young man is simply a rare wonder kid with a brilliant medical skill. But even so, he doesn't want to take a career as a doctor and is only willing to come to our hospital occasionally." Jiang Feng, shocked, asked, "He's a student? A high schooler who's about to take a college entrance test?" "Yup," Li Hongji said. After hesitating for quite a while, Jiang Feng then asked in a low voice, "Old Li, do you have any means to contact him? My friend wants to see him and ask him to treat a patient." All right. I'll give you his cell number later. But tell your friend that he mustn't mess up with his private number, else that kid will fly into a rage. Li Hongji urged. "Well, all right. Thanks, old buddy. I'll take you to drink some other day." "Good, I'll be waiting." After hanging up the phone, Jiang Feng looked at Yang Xinyu as he said with a forced smile, "Your guess is apparently correct. That young man is indeed Tang Xiu, the young divine doctor." Offending a doctor, especially such a young divine doctor, was absolutely not something that Jiang Feng would ever do. He even suddenly felt that the issue that happened today was a kind of unexpected misfortune to him. With a helpless expression, Yang Xinyu said, "A3, it seems like I've really provoked quite some trouble because of my intervention today. And if anything, I really don't know this young man's personality nor do I know his temperament. If I brave myself to visit him and ask for his help, I'm afraid that he would ignore me straight." An apologetic expression was revealed on Jiang Feng's face as he spoke, "Old friend, it was my fault. I got you involved. If things go south, I will thicken this old face of mine to personally go to him, asking him with every effort within my power to meet his requests no matter what he wants." Yang Xinyu shook his head and said with a helpless expression, "Let's just think and talk about this later." Jiang Feng's face suddenly changed as he quickly said, "Li Hongji told me before that Tang Xiu will attend the college entrance test within a couple of weeks. After which, he will come to Star City Chinese Medical Hospital and give medical services after he finished it. How about taking your wife there? We can also ask which day he would come to the hospital and give the medical services, so we can directly register your wife to be examined by him. What do you think?" Yang Xinyu's eyes lit up and immediately nodded repeatedly, "Great idea. If he can cure my wife, I'll prepare a lavish gift for him." After taking the 20 men from the Rising Dragon Martial School, Tang Xiu and Kong Xia then took the bus toward the South Gate town, since they needed to hurry and rest. Sitting together on the last row seats, Tang Xiu could smell a faint sweet fragrance from Kong Xia's body. His lips curved as a smile appeared on his face when he spoke to her. "Well, the play tonight was quite good, wasn't it? Not only did we not need to buy the tickets, we even got 100 million. Kong Xia replied with a soft smile, "Yep, it was indeed cool. Having a boss such as you is really great. How about taking me to see this kind of play every day in our free time when the company is closed? Then I can ask money every day." Tang Xiu was quite dumbfounded and didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he replied, "You're silly. How come we can bump into this kind of matter every day? People nowadays are much smarter, and coming across such fools is very difficult. Moreover, if people were to come finding me and cause trouble, I could die due to being sick of it. A flowery smile blossomed on Kang Xiao's face as she said, well, feeling vexed is indeed an annoying point. But, don't you think that it's quite a joyful pain? TSK, just imagine, 100 million a day. And if it continues for 3 or 5 years, not only would you become the country's highest earner, but you'd also become the richest man in the world. Even Bill Gates would have looked up to you, right?